Alright everybody, Joseph here. Welcome to a Thursday vlog. This is going to be my regular vlog. Hopefully I can keep the schedule up, because I will be going back to work very soon, but in the meantime, let's get back to the topic at hand. Now, on the news, the biggest thing other than the coronavirus that's going on everywhere right now is racism. So the topic of racism has actually come up because of George Floyd's death, and it comes at the hands of a white police officer, and they're talking about discrimination, in the police system. But the fact is that there's racism everywhere you go, everywhere you look. A lot of people ignore it, and a lot of people have to face it, including myself. For me, this is a very serious topic. I'm a first-generation Filipino growing up in Canada, and trust me, Canada's an amazing place to live. There's a melting pot of like every kind of culture you could possibly imagine. When you take the bus or if you walk anywhere, you can hear 3 or 4 languages at a time, and it's just natural. But with that said, there are pros and there are cons. The cons are, I've actually faced a lot of racism since I was a kid. Since I was as young as I could possibly remember, there was always something. Whether it's someone telling me, hey, don't trust the whites, or hey, where are you from, blah, 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 like go back to your country, or whatever it may be. For a small child, it's really tough to digest. When I was young, I didn't know why it was happening. I never saw race, I never saw color, I never saw religion or anything like that, and I actually had no idea how to deal with it. I talked to my parents about it, and they said just ignore them and do all that stuff. It's really hard to when you're that small, when you're that young. I was actually ashamed of my background and my skin color for the longest time. Racism even got to the point where my grandfather and my younger brother were actually picked on physically. My brother came to my class after school, and he's younger, so I was in kindergarten, I was 2nd grade, and he actually got kicked by another classmate of mine. My grandfather faced the same thing when he was picking me up from school. So it hits pretty hard. This is a very sensitive thing. This is a personal thing that I have to deal with, that I dealt with when I was young. As I grew up, I've learned to just cope with it. It's one of those things where you just kind of find a way to overcome it. Every single time I was told you're the wrong skin color, or you're too small, or anything like that, or whatever, I like to prove people wrong. That's one of my favorite things. Cooking, when I was younger, made me realize, hey, the only way I'm gonna get through this is if I actually prove myself, if I show that I work very hard and I am quite intelligent for who and what I am. That's gonna help. Now, please don't get me wrong. I keep saying that Canada is a great place to live. It is. There's only like 1 or 2% of the people who are extremely ignorant out there. Most of the time, I don't let it get to me, and it's hard. It's one of those things I've had to learn. But now that people are standing up for it, it's one of those things where it should be called out. When something is wrong, we're supposed to be there to make sure things are right. We stand up for each other. That's literally what this video is all about for me. It's me about giving my opinion on what I think about what's going on in the world right now. So if you've seen any of my travel vlogs at all, I encourage you to do so. But on top of that, my wife is actually Caucasian, so she's white. She's from the Czech Republic, and she's from Europe, and she's raised completely different than how I am, and that difference makes me love her even more. I travel the world to understand people, customs, cultures, and food. That is something that I always strive to do whenever I travel abroad. I try to talk to as many people as I can. I want to see the way they do things there, the way they have their traditions, and why, heaven forbid, why wouldn't I want to go find out how their culture came about and how their customs are always being done. But it hasn't come at a cost. Traveling the world and doing all that kind of stuff, you run into prejudice, you run into racism, and sometimes you just have to deal with it, and usually you try to deal with it with a smile. For me, coming at it with anger, it's heavily frustrating. It is, especially when my wife and I are discriminated against because we're a mixed couple, whether it be people from my race or a different race, or depending on what color or creed. When they see us together, some people don't think it's right. Interracial mixed couple, and some people even frown upon it. It gets down to the point where sometimes when we're out and about, even in my home country, even in my hometown, we get stared at. And it makes people really uncomfortable. So we had this little game where we'll hug each other a little bit more, we'll be a little bit more affectionate, a little peck on the cheek here or there, just to show people how much we love each other. It's one of those things where they're ignorant about it. Maybe they don't know, maybe they're not used to seeing it. A lot of people, this is one of those funny things where people ask, hey, are you married? I'm like, yes, of course I am. And and they'd be like, oh, it was great. Like, where did you guys meet and all this stuff? And I tell them like the story and who she is and what her background is, and they're like, oh, I thought you married somebody Filipino. It's kind of one of those judgment things where you just want to be like, hey, you know what, that's not quite right, that you just assume. And don't be surprised. Mixed couples happen all the time. They're happening more now than they ever have before. So growing up in Canada, it wasn't all bad. I was able to meet a lot of people from a lot of different places. For me, understanding cultures started at a very young age. Later on in life, I actually started cooking. Cooking is literally one of those things where if you go into a restaurant, you'll meet anybody from every background, doing everything every different way. You can learn about different cultures and different people and all this other stuff, and it opened my mind. To hear people struggle with English, I was able to understand them because my parents struggled with English. So it made them a little comfortable with me because they didn't have to try nearly as hard. They asked me different things like, how do you say this? How do you say that? And you know what? There are times where they don't even mind being corrected. They want to be, so they can learn the language. I appreciate that kind of thing. It's the same way when I'm learning Czech, I want to know the proper pronunciation or the way I say a phrase, if that's correct or not. I've met so many amazing, incredible people during my time traveling, during my time cooking, and during my time just going anywhere. Any small, even small place, I've made so many friends, so many acquaintances, and for me, it's just one of those things where I ask them, hey, where are you from? And trust me, that's not offensive at all. But if you're using it in a negative context, maybe yes. But for me, I'm just intrigued. I've always been curious. Always been like, hey, what's it like there? All this other stuff. Hey, I heard you guys are, fasting at this time and blah, 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 or doing whatever. When that stuff comes up, you just take the time to learn that kind of stuff, to understand other people. I even worked in a restaurant where they actually segregated us by race, just to make it easier, is what they thought. So the Chinese people were working with the Chinese people. There were 2 Czech girls working there at the time, so they were working together. 2 Filipino girls working together, they were working together, of course. And there was me working on my section. So throughout the day, I was into 3 or 4 different languages. Oh yeah, there was even a set of Indian guys also working together, and they just grouped them together to make it easier for themselves. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, mainly because their accents were very strong. They couldn't understand each other, so I would literally translate between all of them. And they were surprised, and they were just always telling me like, oh, how do you understand? Well, of course, why wouldn't I? I'm listening to your words, I'm listening to your message. I'm listening to listen. I'm not listening to react. Now I'm gonna bring this story to a close because literally the partner that I finally got was like an 18-year-old gay kid. And the funny thing is, it didn't bother me at all. There were people who came up to me saying, doesn't it bother you that that he's gay or whatnot or whatever? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I don't look at race. I don't look at color. I don't look at religion. I don't even look at sexuality. As long as he's doing his work, as long as you can stand on the line with me, help us out, we can get through this service together, it doesn't matter. We're all doing the same thing. We're all doing the same job. We're in this together. And until people realize that, they're not going to get the message. They're not going to understand. One instance that happened to me lately, just a year or 2 ago, I actually went to Greece. Going through the market was an experience like no other. Literally one of the biggest markets I've ever been to. But there was one person there who actually pointed at me and called me Chinese. And trust me, I rose quick to anger, but my wife stopped me. She calmed me down, and I didn't really respond with anything because I didn't want to give them any fuel. Same country, I literally met a wonderful couple that actually took us truffle hunting, and with that we became great friends. In fact, we went there taking an Uber, and by the time we started our conversation, started the tour, they offered us to go with them, ride with them in their truck, and they often take us back to town. And you know, it was literally eye-opening. It was so different to see that kind of thing, see such negativity, but then all this hospitality and kindness overshadowed all the negative stuff that happened. So it's not, I can't say like Canada, the US or whatever, they're the only places where it happens. It happens everywhere in the world. And for now, for us to be able to stand up against it, it's one of those things where maybe some things do need reform. Maybe we do need to start speaking out. Maybe we do need to stand up for each other. And you know what? There's nothing more than learning somebody else's customs or rituals or understanding another culture period that just removes that stigma of fear. You know, and that's one of the things that drives all this racism. You know, like, live and let live. That's how it is. Black Lives Matter, for sure. And you know, that's one of those things where you see it often. And you know, a lot of times people turn a blind eye. But with everything that's going on, it hits really hard. It hits really close to home. Only because I've known there have been times where I've been stopped by the police, asking where I'm going, what I'm doing, even though I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not sure if it's profiling or not, or if they've hassled other people, but I felt scared, intimidated, even slightly bullied by them. I've gone into places where I was thinking of buying a car or wanting to see something, and I wasn't getting served because maybe they thought I didn't have enough money or I didn't belong there. There are times where I would actually go to the dealership across the street, inquire there, and I would actually get service, and I would appreciate that. Where those people are meant to be there to serve and protect are no longer serving or protecting us. Now, I'm going to end this little rant with a great message in one of my favorite comic books that I've ever read. The quote is, "Who watches the watchman?" And because of that, it's like, who polices the police? Who holds those people in authority accountable? And maybe with this movement, the change is happening. With the people who have passed away, it's no longer in vain. People are standing up to this kind of thing. There needs to be changes. There will always need to be changes. There will always be people who disagree with whatever you say, or even whatever I'm saying, or people's beliefs or whatnot. But you know what? Those people, they can have their opinions, but to force it on other people, I don't agree with it. Hopefully that's enough for me. It's a lot more serious than what I'm used to putting up on this channel. Hopefully you got a little something out of this. I know I'm watching the news very closely. I'm making sure that I'm keeping an eye out for what goes on around me. I hope that at least opened your eyes to how maybe I feel or how other people feel, or where it's like in my country or where I'm from. But yeah, my channel is usually not this serious. I will be back next Thursday with another kind of vlog, with my usual, with my cooking and something funny or hopefully something intriguing. But I hope you got something out of this. That's gonna be like the biggest thing of all that I'm gonna be trying to do with that. So if you've made it this far, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. Helps the channel out, and of course it's gonna help me out. If you like this kind of thing, obviously you know what to do. Leave yourself a like. And if you have any tips or tricks, or if you have any reactions at all, positive or negative, I probably will respond. I don't get really a lot of traction when it comes to the comments, so I will be able to respond very quickly, or hopefully I will be able to like be there to support you guys and whatever else you guys probably need. So yeah, leave a comment down below. And if you guys can't wait for the next video or videos, I do a Tuesday Trek vlog, and then I do a Thursday regular vlog where it's me cooking and talking about other stuff or whatever I feel like. And then Saturday I do a travel vlog. You guys can stay tuned for all that. And if you can't wait, of course, there's probably stuff already here, or here, wherever else it may be on the screen. And as always, I will see you guys next time. Bye.